I am Lena Morris, age 34. And the moment my life collapsed started in an airport bathroom in Toronto with my wedding ring sitting cold in my palm. My phone buzzing with a message I never expected. And my bank account showing numbers so low they felt like a joke. I had just finalized the divorce. I had lost my house. My job had quietly disappeared after my husband filed complaints against me at work. And my own family told me to stay quiet to avoid shame. I stared at my reflection and barely recognized the woman with red eyes and clenched teeth. I was not weak, but I was cornered. I had spent 12 years being calm, loyal, and invisible while he built a second life behind my back. When the truth came out, it was not loud or dramatic. It was quiet, calculated, and devastating. He drained our savings, blamed me for everything, and walked away smiling. So I made a decision that scared me more than staying. I left the country. I sold what little I had. I changed my name, and I erased my old life like it never mattered. I became someone new, someone careful, someone guarded. I worked long hours, kept my head down, and promised myself never to look back. The pain faded into routine, the anger cooled into discipline, and for the first time in years, I felt free until one afternoon when I was standing in a grocery store line in Vancouver and my phone vibrated with a message request from a name I did not recognize. The message was polite, almost nervous, and it said she thought I should talk. She said she was married to my ex-husband now. She said there were things I needed to know. My chest tightened, my hands shook, and the past rushed back like it had been waiting. I told myself to ignore it, to protect the life I rebuilt. But curiosity mixed with unfinished anger is dangerous. I went home, sat on the edge of my bed, and reread the message again and again. She claimed he was lying to her too. She claimed money was missing. She claimed my name still came up in arguments. And then she said one sentence that froze me. She said he never stopped watching me. Right before I could block her, the phone rang, and I answered without thinking. Before the story continues, subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories. When I said hello, there was silence. Then her voice cracked, and I realized leaving did not end my story. It only paused it. And whatever she was about to tell me was about to pull me back into a life I fought hard to escape. Before I left the country, my world was small but crowded. It was filled with people who smiled in public and whispered in private. My parents believed marriage was endurance, not happiness. So when my husband started coming home late and guarding his phone, they told me to be patient. My mother said loyalty fixes everything. My father avoided eye contact, like silence was wisdom. My younger sister watched me carefully, part concern and part relief that she was not the one trapped. At work I was the dependable one, the fixer, the woman who stayed late and asked for nothing, until he started planting doubts, quiet emails, subtle complaints, jokes about my attitude that made managers tilt their heads. Colleagues who once trusted me began keeping distance, promotions went to others, meetings happened without me. I blamed myself at first. I thought stress made me paranoid. Looking back, I see how perfectly it was arranged. Even my closest friend, Mara, noticed before I did. She warned me, told me something felt wrong, but I was too busy trying to save a marriage that was already gone. When the divorce papers came, my support system collapsed fast. My parents worried about reputation more than truth. My workplace protected itself, not me. Friends chose comfort over conflict. That was when I learned how lonely betrayal feels. Not loud, not dramatic, just empty. Leaving the country was not brave, it was survival. Starting over meant cutting ties. New coworkers knew me as quiet and focused. No history, no baggage. I avoided friendships that felt too close. Trust became something I rationed. Still, the past followed me in subtle ways. I flinched when supervisors called unexpected meetings. I kept copies of everything: emails, contracts, receipts. Habits born from being burned. The new wife messaging me cracked something open I had sealed shut. She sounded like I once did, careful, confused, still trying to make sense of missing pieces. Part of me felt anger, part of me felt pity, and a small part felt fear. Because if he was repeating patterns, then nothing was finished. It meant lies had momentum. It meant my clean break was an illusion. I started questioning old moments, the unexplained debts, the sudden trips, the way my family accepted his version without question. What else did I miss? What else was buried? Relationships are not just people, they are leverage, and he was always good at using them. The thought that I might be dragged back into legal or emotional chaos made my stomach tighten. But there was also something else, a chance to reclaim my voice, to confront the version of me that stayed quiet too long. I had built a new life on distance and discipline, yet unresolved truth has gravity. It pulls. And as I stared at my phone that night, I understood something clearly. Ignoring the past does not erase it, it just lets others control the story. And soon, I would have to choose between protecting my peace or facing whatever betrayal was still unfolding. Knowing either path would cost me something. The first real crack came when I agreed to meet her on a video call. Not because I trusted her, but because silence had started to feel like surrender. She appeared nervous, polished, and exhausted in a way I recognized too well. She talked fast, shared bank statements, timelines, screenshots, and every detail tightened the knot in my chest. Money missing again, accounts moved, explanations that sounded familiar. Then she said something that made my breath catch. She said my name still appeared on legal documents tied to his business, documents signed months after my divorce. I felt heat rush to my face. I had rebuilt my life with precision, new identity, clean records, yet somehow my shadow was still being used. She asked if I had authorized anything, if I had spoken to him recently, if I knew why my name gave him leverage. Doubt crept in. Not about myself, but about how much damage he could still cause. That night I barely slept. My mind replayed old moments I once dismissed, his pressure to sign papers quickly, his anger when I asked questions, the way he always handled finances alone. I realized this was not coincidence. This was design. The next morning, I received an email from a legal office I had never contacted. They requested verification related to past assets. My hands shook as I read it. The past was not knocking, it was forcing its way in. Fear battled anger inside me. One voice said, protect your new life, stay invisible. The other said silence made you a target before external pressure mounted fast. My current employer announced an internal audit, routine they said, but the timing felt sharp. My sister called after months of distance, her tone cautious. She asked if I had heard from him, if I was involved in something. Family concern mixed with suspicion. I felt exposed from every angle. Even the new wife started pushing, asking me to cooperate, to help her understand, to help her protect herself, but helping her meant facing him, it meant reopening wounds. I barely survived. I questioned my motives. Was this about justice or revenge, healing or control? Every option carried risk. Walking away could leave my name tangled in fraud. Stepping forward could pull me into legal battles across borders. I started gathering records, old emails, bank alerts, notes I saved without knowing why. Patterns emerged, a slow manipulation that spanned years. I was not just a victim, I was a resource he kept using. That realization hurt more than the divorce. The moral weight pressed heavy. If I stayed silent, another woman would lose years of her life. If I spoke up, I might lose the peace I fought for. Late one evening, my phone rang again. His number appeared for the first time in years. My heart pounded. My fingers hovered. I knew answering could change everything. I knew ignoring it could too. The screen kept glowing. And I realized the first real choice of my new life had arrived, and whatever I did next would decide who controlled the story. Once I answered that call, everything accelerated. His voice was calm and controlled, like nothing had ever broken between us. He said my name slowly, as if testing whether it still belonged to him. He claimed he wanted peace, closure, cooperation. Words he always used when he wanted leverage. Within days, the consequences surfaced. My bank flagged irregular inquiries tied to my old identity. My employer asked careful questions framed as concern but edged with doubt. I felt eyes on me again. The new wife called daily now, her tone shifting from nervous to desperate. She said he accused her of conspiring with me. Said I was manipulating her from afar. Said I was unstable. Hearing my old label used on someone else made my stomach turn. He was shaping narratives again, this time across borders. Financially, the pressure tightened. Legal consultations drained savings. Documents revealed my name had been used as reassurance for investors. My silence had become collateral. Ethically, I felt trapped. Expose him, and risk retaliation. Stay quiet, and become complicit. Relationships strained under the weight. My sister stopped calling after I refused to promise I would stay out of it. She feared scandal more than truth. Coworkers became distant, small changes that signaled mistrust. Lunches canceled, projects reassigned. Paranoia crept in, but experience told me this was real. He emailed me next, not threatening, polite, almost kind. He suggested mediation. Said we could fix this quietly. Protect everyone involved. The message read like a trap wrapped in courtesy. Emotionally, I felt stretched thin. Anger kept me awake. Fear sat heavy in my chest. Doubt whispered that maybe I should disappear again. Change numbers. Move cities. Erase myself twice. But running had a cost too. The new wife revealed he was preparing legal action, claiming I was interfering in his marriage and finances. The audacity burned. He was creating a paper trail where I looked like the aggressor. Stakes climbed fast, reputation on the line, livelihood at risk. My carefully rebuilt identity trembling, I started documenting everything obsessively. Calls, emails, timelines, patterns, each piece adding weight to a truth no one wanted to confront. Then a message arrived that shifted everything. A former colleague from my old job reached out, said my name was mentioned in an internal review years ago, said records disappeared after I left. Said he always wondered why. This was bigger than a failed marriage. It was systematic, layered, and protected. The realization hit hard. Exposing him would not just affect us. It would ripple outward. People would lose money, trust, maybe careers. I questioned whether I was ready to carry that responsibility. Late at night, I sat alone with documents spread across the table, my phone buzzing with missed calls from numbers I recognized too well. Pressure closing in from every side. I knew I was approaching a point where hesitation would be interpreted as guilt. The ground beneath me felt unstable, and as I prepared to send my first formal response, I understood something clearly. Escalation was no longer a possibility, it was already happening. And the next move would decide whether I was crushed by the story or finally took control of it. The twist did not arrive with drama or confrontation. It arrived quietly in an email attachment sent by a woman I barely remembered. A former assistant from my old workplace. She said she was cleaning old files before leaving the company and felt compelled to reach out. The document she sent made my vision blur. It was an internal report draft, never finalized, dated years before my divorce. It outlined financial inconsistencies, conflict of interest concerns, and a recommendation for investigation, and at the center of it all was my ex-husband, not me. The report showed that I was flagged as a potential fall person, someone whose name could absorb blame if things surfaced. My role as the loyal wife and dependable employee had made me useful. I sat frozen, rereading every line, memories rearranging themselves painfully. The sudden distance at work, the whispered meetings, the way managers stopped defending me. It was not just personal betrayal, it was strategic. My marriage had been camouflage, my silence insurance. The shock settled into a cold clarity, then came the second blow. Buried in the report was a note stating the investigation stalled after pressure from an external partner. A partner linked to his current business, the same business now tied to my name again. Disbelief gave way to anger so sharp it felt clean. Everything he accused me of was projection. Every lie rehearsed long before I ever suspected anything. Emotionally I cycled fast, grief for the years lost, humiliation for how easily I was used, and a rising resolve that surprised me. I was not crazy, careless, or naive. I was positioned. The new wife called that night, her voice shaking. She had discovered a trust in her name she never approved. Funds moved without her knowledge, the pattern repeating with frightening precision. Hearing her confirm what I now knew sealed it. This was not a coincidence or bad judgment, it was a system. The pause came then, a long heavy silence after the truth landed. I felt the weight of choice again, but sharper now, clearer. Exposing him would unravel more than one lie. It would implicate companies, supervisors, maybe even family members who benefited from staying quiet. Disappointment cut deep when I realized how many people chose comfort over truth back then. Yet the revelation gave me something I never had before, leverage grounded in fact, not emotion. Suspense hung thick because knowing the truth did not make the path easier. It made it more dangerous. The assistant warned me the files were not complete, that other copies might exist or might already be destroyed. The new wife said he was acting nervous, paranoid, watching her closely. I felt the story shifting, power redistributing, but no victory yet. Just exposure, just risk, just the moment before action. I closed my laptop and stared at the wall, understanding that the past had finally shown its real face, and now that I had seen it clearly, there was no going back, only forward into consequences I could not yet see. I spent nights pacing my small apartment, documents spread like a map of every betrayal, every lie, every hidden corner of a life I thought I controlled. The choice was simple in theory. Expose him and risk chaos, or stay silent and let him keep using others as shields. But simple never felt heavier. Each scenario looped in my mind. If I acted now, legal battles would follow, reputations would crumble. People I barely knew could be caught in the crossfire. If I waited, I would protect myself, but my silence would become his weapon again. My new life, painstakingly built, trembled with the weight of the decision. I remembered the new wife's voice, urgent, honest, scared, telling me he had already moved money, signed documents in her name without consent. Using my old identity as a scapegoat once more, I felt anger rise. but also a strange sense of responsibility. Not just for myself, but for anyone who could be hurt if I stayed quiet. I started drafting emails, checking legal timelines, documenting everything meticulously. I felt the surge of control and dread at the same time. At work, my focus sharpened. Small tasks took on urgency. I could not afford mistakes. My sister called hesitantly. I explained parts without revealing danger. She listened quietly, support flickering through fear. When I finally made the call to a lawyer across borders, my hand shook slightly. I realized this was more than legal. This was reclaiming the story of my life. The first meeting was tense, strategic, every word measured, every fact verified, every emotional impulse restrained. I felt the shift inside, the fear receding, replaced by determination. I chose transparency, confrontation, and action. I would expose the manipulation, not recklessly, but carefully, guided by truth. The consequences were immediate. The new wife called. Relief and anxiety in her voice. She promised to cooperate fully. I felt a small satisfaction. A sense of justice building slowly. My finances remained intact, but the strain of legal preparation cost sleep and peace. Colleagues noticed focus and absence, yet no one could fault professionalism. Family remained cautious but aware now. Boundaries redrawn with clarity, and for the first time in years I felt agency instead of reaction. I knew the path would be grueling, that he would resist, manipulate, and try to turn narratives, but I also knew that my choices now were anchored in fact, not fear. The night I sent the first verified evidence to authorities and partners, I felt a release I had not anticipated, not joy, not relief, but recognition that I was reclaiming power stolen from me. Suspense remained because the outcome was not guaranteed, yet the climax was mine, the decision made, and whatever unfolded next, I would face it with clarity, authority, and a refusal to be a pawn again. This choice was messy, risky, exhausting, but it was finally honest. It was mine. And the story of my life would no longer be written by someone else. Sitting in my quiet apartment weeks after sending everything to the authorities, I finally allowed myself to breathe. The storm was not over. His next moves were unknown. But I had taken back the power that had been quietly drained from me for years. I learned the weight of trust, how placing it in the wrong hands can make you invisible in your own life, and how reclaiming it requires patience, courage, and sometimes confrontation. I realized responsibility is not just about protecting yourself. It is about protecting the truth and the people who might be hurt if you remain silent. I thought about the new wife, scared and unaware. I thought about my family, who chose comfort over honesty for years, and I understood that boundaries are not just lines drawn in sand. They are shields. They are agreements with yourself to never let manipulation take root again. My finances were intact. My career regained stability, and my name cleared. But more than that, I felt grounded in a way I never had before. Free from the invisible strings he had tried to wrap around me. I thought about my past self. The woman who left everything, who erased her identity, who walked into unknown cities and jobs alone. I felt pride for her courage and sadness for the years lost to betrayal. Yet I also felt clarity. The story was mine now, not his, not anyone else's. I kept some lessons close, and some I shared openly with the new wife. We never became friends, but there was respect and understanding, an alliance born from necessity and honesty. I reflected on the subtle ways people manipulate, how small lies become cages, and how awareness is the first step to breaking free. Moving forward meant choosing life over fear, action over inaction, truth over comfort. I realized that even in betrayal there is opportunity, even in loss there is growth, and even in silence there is a moment when your voice can matter more than you imagined. I thought about my sister, the colleagues who doubted me, the friends who stayed away. I forgave them quietly, not because they deserved it, but because holding anger longer would have only chained me to the past. The real lesson was not vengeance, it was reclaiming agency, knowing that you can act decisively even when the stakes are high, the consequences real, and the outcomes uncertain. Life moves forward only when you choose to act. I looked at the documents neatly filed, my laptop closed, my phone silent, and felt a strange calm. The chaos of manipulation and lies existed, but it no longer defined me. I had boundaries, clarity, and a life rebuilt on my own terms. I wondered how many people out there live invisible, lives under quiet control, how many accept deception thinking it is easier than confrontation, and I asked myself quietly, what would you have done in my place? Would you have stayed silent, or would you have risked everything to reclaim your story? Because in the end, it is not the drama of betrayal that defines us. It is the courage to stand, to act, and to reclaim the life that is truly ours.